right, it's Hard Talk Radio. I'm your host, MrDeadman, and joining us here tonight is Catherine. Oh my God, I didn't ask how to pronounce your last name. Cavendish? It's Cavendish, right? Cavendish. Or is it Cavendish?
Yeah,
Catherine, you there?
it is. It's it.
That's it? Cavendish?
Cavendish.
Cavendish. Okay, there you go. There you go. It's okay. Okay.
I think I'm watching on two screens here, so if I get rid of the
Yeah, if you're watching the stream itself, don't worry about that part. You can mute it or whatever, because that's going to be delayed. There's going to be a delay with that. Just just focus on the Skype part, and then we'll be a-okay. All right, and I need a quick announcement here.
right.
Dead Man's Tome publishes books. Dead Man's Tome is a publishing company I run, and the latest book is Hollywood Holocaust. Pretty bold title. It's about Hollywood celebrities getting their due. Okay, nothing more than that. Okay, but we're talking about creepy monsters like love. Why is Kim Kardashian and Kanye West getting divorced? It has something to do with a Cthulhu love child. It's in this book right here. Why is Taylor Swift afraid to come out at night? Is it something to do with her boyfriends? It's in here, okay? So this book right here is for $10, of course on Amazon, paperback, but that's a limited time. What's going to happen is in about a week, that version, the Amazon only version, is going to be removed, and then this copy, the one I'm actually holding, which looks the same thing, looks the same way, is going to be out, and it's going to be out everywhere. And all retailers. The reason why I tell you that, though, is that there's a price difference. There's a price difference. If you want it at the cheap $10 right now, jump on that. You have to. Otherwise, then it'll be $12. So it's up to you. Now, with that said, you can get a digital copy by becoming a patron. And if you become a patron just for $1, you get a digital copy of Hollywood Holocaust and other Dead Man's Tome books as well. Okay, with that said, out of the way, Stone Mexican guy in the chat says, take your shirt off. He says that all the time. I'm gonna have to decline on that. There's a lady here present. I don't want to scare her. Okay, even though she writes scary stuff, she writes stuff about ghosts and paranormal. I don't want to scare her. I think he wants to know if I have a third nipple. And I do.
Mm-hmm.
I do. Okay. All right, Catherine. I always start with one question with all my guests.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you and what do you do?
Okay, well, I'm Catherine Cavendish, and I write scary stories. I write horror, but my kind of horror is the supernatural, paranormal, ghostly, creepy, haunted house, something lurking in the shadows, demonic type of horror. I don't do flying body parts or too much. I do gore on occasions, but only where it's strictly necessary. And I've been writing since I got hold of a pencil, basically, and found somebody handed me a piece of paper and I scribbled something on it and said I'd written a book. But there we are. As I was only 3 years old at the time and couldn't write, it didn't really make a lot of sense. But I seriously took up writing when I was at school and carried on ever since. And I've gone through genre, but I keep coming back to my favourite world, which is the scary story, and that's what I do now. And I'm a multi-published author and very happy to be so.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So you started kind of when you're 3, just writing around, just writing various stuff, and then you went from genre to genre. Okay. Now, but why horror? What brings you to horror? What about it attracts you?
Right. That again goes right back to my childhood, because one of the first, I think it's probably the first horror story I ever read was a short story that strangely, it was in an anthology of stories and poetry and all sorts of stuff. I can remember it was this school hardback green edition of this book. And it was a story by W. Jacobs, and it was called The Monkey's Paw. And I don't know if you've ever read that.
Yeah, I've read it.
Yeah. The thing about The Monkey's Paw is over a period of time, you actually forget just how little actually happens in the story. but it's all about the creeping dread. It's the whole moral of that story is be careful what you wish for.
Right.
And it frightened the life out of me. What it was doing in an anthology of stories for kids about 8 or 9 years old, I do not know. Maybe it's a British education system at the time. I'm British, in case you haven't noticed it. I have no idea, but it got me hooked. I was scared to death. I crept under my covers that night, and every little creak in the house, and I was and the next day I couldn't wait to read it again, and then that was it. I was at my mother, and I want to read some ghost stories. And it's just stayed with me, even though I started reading crime. I was reading historical, still love crime and historical. I went through a phase of reading romance when I was in my agonized teens, all sorts of stuff. Still, I would always come back to a ghost story. And it all started with W.W. Jacobs, The Monkey's Paw. The man had a lot to answer for.
That's the one where the last wish was to bring back their dead son. Is that the one?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
And then the final thing is a knock at the door.
Yeah, yeah. That's...
And on the other side.
Yep. Man,
ain't gonna be pretty.
That's a story. I think that was the inspiration behind what Pet Sematary, Stephen King's Pet Sematary. Didn't Stephen King have something that's very similar to the Talisman? Is that King? Or am I mixing it up? I thought King had a story very similar to that, like a 3-wish thing, and because it's an interesting trope. It's an interesting thing to do, and it's not like you copyright it. You don't. It's like an idea, and other people can kind of take on, kind of build on top of it. I mean, you see that with like even with horror monsters like vampires and ghosts and stuff. People just add on to it, add on to the lore and to the mythology of it, which is cool. Okay, so you like the scary atmosphere of horror. It attracts you. Yeah,
absolutely.
And you've written multiple genres, and I'm sure that you've found maybe other genres to be more profitable. I don't know. Have you written romance?
Oh, well, I tried.
Oh.
I'm no good at it. I'm just no good at it. I've tried to write romance, and I was writing this story, and I just got so fed up of this woman I created. And I just ended up saying, if you just don't, oh, for heaven's sake, and I just stuck her in a drawer. And I think she's still there. I think she was last seen stuck in a lift with this bloke. And
okay.
I think she's probably been there about 35 years. I mean, I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, she can stay there. No, I'm no good. No, I have
what
tried,
was she doing? Was she just
writing historical? But
oh,
that's I'm better with that. So I'm able to, with what I write now, because of the type of horror I do write, I'm able to have historical settings, so I can combine my love of the scary and the spooky, and the hopefully frightening as well on occasions. I can combine that with my love of history by setting my stories in the past, or maybe having part of them in the past, as I've done with the latest one, and as I will be doing with books in the future, and have done with others in the past. Just I can combine all of that, and it's great fun. Plus the fact, of course, if you set something in the past, or a significant chunk of it in the past, you don't have to worry so much with the connectivity that we have these days. So I don't have to worry about mobile phones if I'm setting something in the 80s or the 20s or the 30s or last century or whatever.
Yeah, you have to find clever ways to write your story with cell phones and connectivity in mind, because it's like, at any time we're pretty much connected, so if a horror thing did happen, there might be someone who would stream the whole thing and would create a different element of it. There's the whole classic, you run out of cell service, you're out of cell reception, which still does happen, even though it's cliche.
Yeah.
It still does happen. Oh, I live in Texas. There's areas in Texas that are just like, nope. There's certain buildings you go into because they're made out of metal or steel or whatever. It's just no reception.
Yeah.
So there's clever ways to do it, and it's a cliche, but think about it. If you're dealing with a serial killer and if they're wise about cell phones and know how to cut it off, know how to block the signal, it's something they're gonna do. So say it's a trope, but so is a serial killer stabbing and shooting and stuff like that. So I mean, it's part of it.
Yeah, no, it's very true. We have problems with connectivity in this country as well, even though we're obviously nowhere near like Texas with the wide open spaces. But we still have some pretty poor areas of reception. They can be very, very localized as well. But I remember when we used to go, my husband and I used to go up to Caithness in the far north of Scotland, and then go over to Orkney, and which is beautiful, the islands off the north coast of Scotland. And there's a little village in Caithness called May, and the Queen Mother actually has a little castle down the road. And in May, it's bizarre. You can't get a cell, or you couldn't when we were going up there. You couldn't get a signal on your phone unless you went and stood right by the septic tank. There was a septic tank in the car park outside the pub stores. And for some reason, right there, you could get a signal. Anywhere else, forget it.
That is so strange. Okay. All right. Interesting. I can't explain that. Now, one of your latest books, or your latest book right now, is called In Darkness, Shadows Breathe. And that's the book I saw that caught my attention. I reached out to you, but like, hey,
thank you.
Definitely have to have you on the show to talk about this title. It intrigued me. First off, good cover. Lovely lady on the cover. She looked like she's going through some stuff, so it caught my attention. So I'm sure that cover has helped in some cells. So tell us about this book, In Darkness, Shadows Breathe.
Right. Okay. In Darkness, Shadows Breathe. It's probably the most difficult book I've ever written, actually. But just to give you an idea of the story, and then I'll sort of explain why I'm saying it's the most difficult book. There are basically two main characters in the book, and the story is told in two halves. The first half being the story of Carol Shaughnessy, and the second half of Nessa Tremaine. Now, Carol Shaughnessy is a woman in her mid-30s. She's not had it easy in her life. In fact, she's had it pretty tough. She was adopted. She wasn't adopted. She was fostered, actually. So she went from home to home. She was abused. She had a really tough time. And she is sort of landed on her feet for about 6 months anyway, because she's house-sitting a beautiful apartment that she can never afford herself, but was while the owners are in the Middle East on a work contract. So there she is in this gorgeous apartment, which just happens to be built on the grounds of the old asylum, workhouse, orphanage, hospital, dating back to Victorian times.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's her. And she's hardly moved into this apartment when things start to happen, and she finds a poem by some woman called Lydia Warren Carmody, which is called In Darkness, Shadows Breathe, and that's where the title of the story actually comes from. And she's drawn into this, and she keeps seeing visions, and she keeps seeing ghosts, a ghost of this little girl who's telling her that you're next. Next.
Okay.
And so the story starts to build up, and she ends up having acute appendicitis. She's admitted into the hospital. Now, the hospital is a modern hospital, again, built in the same area as the apartment that she's house sitting, because, of course, the whole complex was demolished to build the luxury flats and the modern hospital, incorporating a lot of the materials from the old orphanage, workhouse, etc.
Oh, okay.
Things sort of ratchet up once she gets into hospital, and she finds herself being taken down into an old part of the hospital that she shouldn't be able to get into because it shouldn't exist. And that's when things really start to go wrong for her, and things start to happen which show there's something really evil going on within this building. In the second part, Nessa Tremaine, she is a woman who's suffering from cancer. And this is where the difficult part came. And she is in her mid to late 50s, and she's got to go into hospital and have a serious operation, which will cure her. Otherwise, it's a life-changing but life-saving operation. And she starts to find, she doesn't know Carol. She never met Carol. but she does meet up with her in the hospital because they share experiences. Because Nessa also is taken through a wall, down this corridor, in the old part of the hospital. But that old part of the hospital doesn't exist. It's a time slip.
Oh.
But it's a time slip and a time bend as well, because time starts to lose any real meaning.
Yeah. See, I was going to ask if it was just part of the old hospital that they built on top of, but no, it's like a time slip. It's like a little gate somehow.
That's right.
Okay.
That entrance only exists for the people that it's meant to exist for, and only at the time when it's meant to exist for them. So things become very, very dangerous. These two women who should never, under normal circumstances, ever have met, are thrown together, and it's really a battle for their bodies and their souls, and that's really what the whole crux of the story is. And in darkness, they find out that in darkness, shadows really do breathe.
Darkness, shadows breathe. That's a good title. I like that. And the story is fascinating. So I'm really, really curious right now about the difficult part. You said that was related to Anissa having cancer.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit more about that.
Okay. I need to sort of just, I'm going to be rambling a bit here, but I need to actually just take back one step, because otherwise people may well wonder, well, why the hell do it in the first place? And if it's going to be so hard? Well, the answer is, I always knew that when I was diagnosed with cancer and I went through the operation, I had the same operation Nessa Tremaine has, basically. I'm very cruel to my protagonists. I expect them to go through hell.
You should be. You're a horror author.
The only thing is, I didn't have to go through a demon as well. So poor old Nessa gets it worse than me, and she misses out on another operation I had. So, okay, it works out even in the end. I always kind of knew that at some stage I'd write this. And when I was in hospital, I was actually in two separate hospitals. I was taking mental note, even though I didn't feel like writing it down much, of what I was seeing and what I was hearing and what was going on. And there was a very, very spooky corridor in one of the hospitals, and that actually does come out in the book. And I didn't know how I was going to write the story that I knew I would write one day of Nessa and my cancer, as it were. Okay. And then I picked up a book by Hunter Shea. I don't know if you come across Hunter Shea's work, but he wrote a book called Creature. And Creature draws on a lot of his wife's illnesses. His wife, I know he won't mind me saying this because it's actually in the book. His wife suffers from a range of autoimmune diseases. There's a name for it, which escapes me just at the moment, but it's pretty tough. It's pretty tough. And he's incorporated it into Creature. Obviously, again, he's taken it to a different level. And I thought, that book affected me so much. When I put it down, I actually cried. And I don't cry for it. But Hunter had done a fabulous job with Creature. So I thought, right, this is it. I'm going to do it now. So it was that inspired me to actually, gave me the courage, if you like, to actually do it. So thank you, Hunter, for that. And basically, the tough part to write of that book is Nessa's battle with cancer, the operation that she has to have. It's a very rare form of cancer. It's a form of vaginal cancer, which is extremely rare and required, in her case, as it did in mine, radical surgery. Oh. And that was the tough bit.
Oh, man. That sounds tough. That sounds... And it's... this is a personal thing, too, an experience that you went through as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funnily enough, I was reading through the book again, because it's funny when you write a book and then you sort of, it goes off and you basically don't read it for months and months and months. And I've written a couple of books since then, since I last read In Darkness. And so I thought, well, I better read it through again, because if MrDeadman asks me questions, and I'll think, oh, hang on a minute, really? I can't remember. So I read it through again. And again, when I came to those parts with Nessa's cancer, it brought it all back to me again. And every time I was writing it, it brought it back to me again. And so
you really put yourself in this book. You put a really personal, painful moment in this book.
Yeah.
So it's going to be one of those on the wall that has a very, on your shelf, that has a very personal, deep connection with you. Very raw. Okay. And that's one thing I noticed in the reviews, in the 5 stars, and even there's a couple of 3 stars, but we all get them.
Absolutely.
Sometimes I'm curious because sometimes with them, it's like, well, what's going on? Sometimes when I get a 1-star review, it's like, what's going on with that? There's been a couple of times where I bought a book because of a 1-star review, actually, because, they say, oh, it's too gory. I bought it. But anyway, I'm digressing here. But so in the 3-star review, it was like, they're saying stuff, but it was like, but then the part with Nessa's cancer, oh man, it was like very it was almost too much. And for me, I'm just like, that sounds good. What do you mean too much? Like, if you're going to have a character that's going through cancer, going through something like that, let it be personal. Let it be raw. Let it be harrowing. Let it be something that lingers and has that effect. Because then maybe you can connect to someone who isn't really all about ghosts and paranormal, though. I mean, maybe not. I don't know. Because that's an element of reality that they can connect with. The ghost and paranormal element, they might be like, I don't know. It's kind of a nice dressing on top of it, but you have a very human character going through a very human, painful experience. That's good.
Thank you. I know in the book itself, in the acknowledgements at the end, and I'm not giving any spoilers here when I say it's in the end, I do actually mention the fact that there is this personal element, because I actually thank the hospitals, the Liverpool Women's Hospital, which is absolutely incredible, and Broad Green Hospital and Clatterbridge Cancer Centre, who all of them looked after me so brilliantly. And as a result of that, I live to tell the tale. I'm here now. It's what, 5.5 years later. I'm here, and I'm still here, and I'm just about to be signed off. So by the hospital. So that's a real testament to the wonderful medical expertise that I had. So all thanks to them. So I pay them credit in the acknowledgements. But yeah, it's no secret. If people read the acknowledgements at the end of the book, they'll see that there is me in there.
Okay.
But more than any other book I've written.
Now, are there other elements of this book that are kind of based on a personal experience?
The locations are very familiar to me. I base the hospital, the Royal and Waverley, that both Nessa and Carol end up in, is an amalgam of the Liverpool Women's Hospital, which is a modern hospital. Actually, it's a few years old now, but it is a modern hospital. And Broad Green, which is a mixture of the sort of the old and new coming together, although it's not really that old, I suppose. So there's that there, and also I mentioned the Gothic edifice of the university behind the complex, and that is based on Liverpool University, which I used to work at, and the apartment that Carol is living in is actually one that my husband and I looked at when we were house hunting about 3 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And
Look at
almost bought. Yeah.
So you know that apartment.
I know that apartment really well.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we almost bought it. Very nice apartment. Woo.
Now, so in the story, they find a letter, or a poem or a letter that's connected with this I guess this person, this woman, Lydia Warren Carmody. Now, is that based on a real person?
No.
Okay.
No, it's completely. I made up the poem. I made up the author.
Okay.
And the woman, of course, the author of that poem is also very much tied up with the story as well, and because Carol and Nessa both experience being her, if you like, seeing the world through her eyes, at a rather deadly moment. That's all I should say about that.
What I find interesting about that is, and you get this a lot, I guess, with ghost stories, paranormal stories is that the past haunting you, like, you know, like someone from the past, in this case, this Lydia person, having gone through some tragic thing, whatever she gone through, or done some horrible things. I don't know. Like, was she? Tell us a little bit about this Lydia person.
I can't really tell you too much because it's too many spoilers, really.
Okay.
If I do, but
Give me a little
she's
tease.
just simply, she's a Victorian woman.
Okay.
Who was married. A marriage of convenience, if you like.
Okay.
She didn't want to be married to this really violent husband, and it's kind of the reason she's still hanging around, if you like, is because of the violent things that went on.
Okay.
Towards the end of her marriage, yeah.
Okay, and now she's haunting, and she's kind of inflicting the violence on other people, or is she?
It's not quite not even quite as straightforward as that. She's just all tangled up in this web of evil.
Interesting.
Because of something that she did, but you could say she was driven to do what she did. But these are the within darkness, shadows breathe. I do let the reader make up their own mind about certain things, not all things. They give them, I give them sort of little lead-ins and all the rest of it. But it's not one of those sort of novels where everything is tied up neatly in a bow at the end. In fact, I don't tend to do that anyway. I always like to leave a little bit open for readers to put their own interpretation on certain things.
That's cool.
In Darkness, probably they need to do a little bit more work than some of the other books that I've written, if they want to get the most out of it.
All right, cool.
And Lydia is a case in point there. Who is Lydia? What is she?
Yeah, so I like that though. What she went through, because of what she went through. Now, for some reason, she lingers, and she's kind of, I guess, the web of emotions or whatever it is. How you describe it? It's causing an impact on other people. Now, for those that are skeptics or skeptic-minded or whatever about ghosts and paranormal, like they might be like, yeah, but that doesn't really happen. Now, have you had any experiences like that with ghosts and paranormal?
Oh yeah,
okay,
definitely, yeah. When we lived I've lived around a lot, but until fairly recently, we were spending half our lives living in an apartment or flat in Wales, in North Wales, in a small, it is a city, but it's actually a small, very small community there. And the building is 270 years old and has gone through multiple different functions and different configurations and all the rest of it. And part of it's a social club. And some pretty spooky stuff goes on there. And one of the spirits, or one of the manifestations that has occurred there has actually been caught on camera. And I saw it. And how that happened, it was very early one Saturday morning. My husband, who is an early riser anyway, he was up about 6 in the morning. And
well, we're all little early risers. I'm just joking. Most men are. I'm just joking. Okay. We got to keep it family friendly here.
Put it up better. You know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
He was downstairs doing some work. And this is going to sound weird. If that sounded weird, it's going to sound even weirder. He heard a toilet flush. Now, the thing was the configuration of the building meant that behind our kitchen was actually the gents' loo for the social club. The whole building was built on the side of a hill, pretty steep hill. So what's, the ground floor in one part of the building is like the second floor in another. So anyway, here's this. That's a bit weird, a bit early for the cleaners to be in the club. So he goes and investigates. And he can only go so far because otherwise he's set off various alarms. So he has to wait until he hears somebody around that knows that the alarm's been switched off to go down, and said to her, that I heard some noise around 6 o'clock this morning and it's far too early for the cleaners. Can we check the CCTV? They checked the CCTV, and in this particular room right at bang on 6 o'clock when he'd heard the loo flush, there's this white smoke, and it sort of shot across the screen. Now,
do they know why? Do you know what that smoke was?
We've never discovered it. We know what it isn't. We know it wasn't cigarette smoke. We know it wasn't the cleaners, because the cleaners are actually shown on CCTV turning up 3/4 of an hour later.
Oh, okay.
And nobody was in that part of the building. If anybody had been, they'd have set the alarm off. Anybody, corporeal, if you like, corporeal. I never pronounce that word. So nobody there. It wasn't cigarette smoke or cigars. It wasn't even that kind of smoke, actually. It just puffed that smoke. This was like a real pure white, like a little cloud. And it shot across. Headlights, could it be headlights? No, because you see headlights coming past the window, sort of shining in, and they shone through into the room. And that was a totally different effect.
And this was inside the building, right? This is inside the building?
This is inside the building.
So it couldn't be fog or anything like that?
It couldn't be fog. It's never been able to be explained. And people have strange experiences in that room. Not very nice. Either people have reported being pushed. People have reported things being moved. People have reported things being thrown at them, and there's nobody there. And this is staff. There were staff who refused to go into that room on their own, and people reporting things, and visitors reporting things happening to them, and they didn't know anything about the place. In our flat, our experience was very, very different. We had a different kind of haunting, and she was actually given a name in the end, Miss Edwards, because there was a Miss Edwards who used to own a haberdashery shop, which was what our flat used to be. And she was sort of like, we'd come home and find lights switched on, even though we knew they'd been off. We'd find the television switched on,
right?
Even though that had been switched off.
And people that are skeptics will be like, "Oh, you guys just forgot." But it's like, no, those people. I mean, they turn it off, and they'll even take a picture that they turned it off, and they'll walk away, and then the lights back on. Explain that. Oh, it could be something in the electrical. Okay, all right. It's like they always try to explain it. They always try to deny it, which I understand. You want to go through all the evidence out there, go through all the possibilities.
That's right.
I think now what physicists with the collider thing, we're trying to say that kind of proves that there's no other elements or particles that could be related to spirits or whatever, or to a soul. But it's like, all right, but what about these strange supernatural phenomenons that people explain? There's some things that sound kind of outlandish and crazy. Like, I've had guests on this show back when it was called the Devin Stone Podcast say that I don't want to say the word really, a horror author who doesn't want to say the word, right? Let's just say some really forceful, violent things. This woman claimed a very forceful, violent thing happened to her because of a ghost, okay, of a sexual nature. And it's like, oh, wow, okay, what? That was weird.
Incubus.
Yeah, it was crazy. But I hear these stories, and people claim to have injuries afterwards, or as they claim to feel a presence. It's like, well, what is that? Could it be something with mental illness or whatever? Maybe, I don't know, but maybe not all the time. What is it? I don't know. So what do you say to those that are like really skeptical, that just like don't want to hear it, and they just kind of like deny it?
I'd just say, I think until you've experienced something, I can totally understand why people would be skeptical. Totally understand it. I wouldn't try and change somebody's opinion. Okay. If they don't believe, they don't believe. I mean, right. It's like trying to say to somebody who is an atheist that they should become, I don't know, Christian, or follow some kind of religion. You can't. I can't prove it.
Right.
All I know is what I saw. I mean, I can show. I can't show the CCTV because I don't possess it. But you can see something, and somebody will still say, "Oh yeah, it's been manipulated." I mean, I know that wasn't, because it was how it was recorded. But you know, somebody will always come up with with an argument until it actually happens to them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just say, fine, you're totally entitled to your opinion. That's
Mm-hmm.
great. If it ever happens to you, you know where I am. You can come and talk to me about it.
Now,
But until, I'm not going to try and tell you that you're wrong or anything. No, I think people have to experience it for themselves, or not, as the case may be. But I know I've seen things over the years. I've seen a ghost of a cat. I had it very, very briefly. Can't explain it. Never been able to explain it. And people say, "Oh, it's just in your mind. It's just in your mind." But, okay, well, maybe it is. I know it wasn't, but maybe it is.
Right. So, how long have you been fascinated with ghosts?
Oh, I can't remember a time when I wasn't. I really can't. I mean, it goes back to this blooming monkey's paw again, you know. I mean, I know there's no actual ghost in the monkey's paw by W. Jacobs. The first story I ever read that ever got me into horror in the first place, and ghost stories and everything. But they're just that. I just got so hooked on tales of mystery and imagination, tales of the unexpected, the BBC Christmas ghost stories on a Christmas Eve night when they'd have adaptations of M.R. James short stories, and they were so creepy. And The Signalman by Charles Dickens. Oh boy, is that a creepy story! It's just I can't remember a time when I wasn't fascinated by it.
Okay,
love it.
Now, as a child, do you have some memories that seem very paranormal, or things that you really can't explain?
As a child, not really. No, I was in my teens really when the first late teens as well, and that was a visit to.
A visit.
I've thought about this for years. It was a visit to a place called Temple Newsome House. Now, I was living in Leeds, in Yorkshire, in the north of England, and there's a rather beautiful historic house just outside Leeds, called Temple Newsome House, and I think it's still owned by the council. And you could go around the house, and there's also gardens, and you could sit in the summertime and so on. And I was coming down this particular staircase at Temple Newsome House, and there's a picture. I don't know if it's still there, but it was, of this man, and he was dressed. I think he was part of the family or something, but he'd become. I don't know whether he wasn't a priest, but he was some kind of religious character, and probably a Wesleyan or something. So he was dressed in sort of that kind of garb, of black with white collar and a sort of white sort of tail tie thing. I don't know what you call them properly. And he was supposed to be this really, really holy man. But I'm coming down the stairs, and suddenly I caught sight of this picture, and the eyes of this character just transmitted something. And I'm feeling goosebumps now. And it was a warm day, and I just went freezing cold. And it seemed to stare at me and follow me down. Oh, it was so great. And I just ran down the rest of those stairs and caught up with my then boyfriend. And I've got to get out of here. I've got to get out of here.
Hey, no joke. There are creepy paintings out there.
Yeah.
I haven't seen this painting that you're describing. I've seen ones where the eyes seem to follow you. The eyes seem is that what is? The eyes were following you, or you said something transmitted? Like, was there some sort of aura or something that came out? Oh. Yeah,
it was something evil. And as I said to my then boyfriend John, I said, "It's evil. That man's evil. Evil. There's something evil coming off it." And he went and read this inscription or whatever. I don't know. Maybe it's the guidebook. I said, "Is this holy man?"
Maybe.
I said, "Well, he was evil."
Maybe his name is Ethan Ralph, and he's the father of the demon baby. That's what it is. He's a holy man, but he's secretly a father of a demon baby knocking up an 18-year-old. There you go.
No, I didn't have a demon. No. Oh dear.
So, was your house
really Sorry?
As a teenager, the place where you were living, was it haunted?
Oh well, yeah. I was living in. I don't know. it was a house in Leeds, and I've written about it actually, or used it as a setting for a novella I wrote called The Darkest Veil. And some things that I've written about in that book actually did happen in the house. Not the. I put a lot of evil stuff happening in the book, and that didn't happen in the house. What I felt in the house was that I was wanted there, and that it wanted me to stay. But that was a nice, warm feeling. So it was more of an atmosphere in the house. I mean, in Darkness, Shadows Breathe is exactly the opposite, because they've used the materials from the old building. There is evil built into the hospital. Not giving too much away when I say that. There's evil built into the buildings that are on, and they've come from what was there before. And I do believe that buildings can absorb atmosphere. I think it probably explains quite a lot, actually. And maybe, things that we perhaps call ghosts are in fact imprinted memories in the buildings or the surroundings that have experienced some severe trauma or severe emotion of some kind, strong emotion of some kind. And certainly the house, the flat and the house that I had in Leeds seemed to have, for me, it seemed to just want me to be there whenever I didn't feel unsafe outside of there, but whenever I came home there, even though it was a grotty little bedsit, really, it was my first place away from home, but when I got in and shut my door, it was almost like somebody was going like that,
hugging you.
I didn't feel anything. It was nice. It was welcoming and warm, and it was quite a wrench to leave there. I stayed there far longer than I intended to.
Maybe it was Patrick Swayze in Ghost giving you a hug. Yeah, it was like, hey, want to make some clay? Want to make some clay pottery?
Tried that once. Complete disaster.
Oh. Yeah. The clay gets in areas.
It's everywhere, doesn't it?
No. Yeah. Okay. So that was a friendly ghost. I think the house I grew up in supposedly was haunted. I don't know. That's what one of my I'll just say a friend said before in the past. And she said that the ghost name was Fred. So I was like, are you messing with me here? She'd break out the Ouija board and all that stuff, would mess around with it, and things kind of happen, I guess. But then when I tried the Ouija board by myself, which they say you're not supposed to do, so I was like, hey, let's see what happens. Nothing really happened. So I was like, oh, okay, well, Have you ever done that? You ever messed with like Ouija boards and?
Yeah.
Oh.
Now that comes out in The Darkest Veil. The only, as it turned out in reality, the only time I ever used a Ouija board. No, it wasn't the only time, but it was the last time, and it was with some girls that I was working with. It was actually in the office we were working, and we were using these cards, sort of the lexicon cards, sort of alphabet cards, laid them out sort of alphabetically as you do, and then we had this sort of really quite sturdy water glass.
Okay.
And we got our fingers, the three of us, and we got our fingers on. We're asking it questions, and suddenly this glass moved and started just spelling out swear words.
Swear words, cussing,
and Z words, and
like inappropriate language, ghosts, inappropriate language.
Mm-hmm.
And wait a second, and then this Ouija board you were using, you guys just made it?
Yeah, we just made it ourselves. We just literally, so we're on the floor. It was in the ladies' blue, actually, but it was a great big area there, and the floor was sort of quite it was marble or whatever it was. It was a bank. I mean, we used to work in a bank, and this blooming glass just suddenly shot from under our fingers right out, smashed against the wall, completely smashed to smithereens, and the three of us just white-faced and what the hell happened there?
Mm-hmm.
And
that's crazy.
You had to be, again, it was one of these things, you had to be there, otherwise there's 101 explanations for this, but there wasn't, because the three of us, you can tell when somebody's really pressing hard on something, because obviously the skin goes whiter, but we hadn't been doing that, and it was the way it wasn't thrown back. It was tugged away from us. It was a tugging away and leaving us sort of like that. And this glass
you said this was
the
a
floor.
bank. This was a spirit that was. It sounds like an angry spirit. Maybe he's angry about the whole GameStop. Oh, that was in the past. So the whole GameStop thing was. Never mind. I'm just thinking it sounds like an angry banker ghost or something. Mad that he lost his money.
Customer.
Right.
I don't know, but we never touched that. Well, I never touched it again. I don't know about the other two, but I never. No, I just wouldn't. That really, that was the end. I thought, oh, you know, we felt we got away lightly, but of course we didn't. There were two things we didn't do. We didn't say, or we didn't close it down. We didn't say goodbye.
Oh.
So maybe.
So it could be
still wandering the halls.
Wandering the halls, looking for its next victim. There you go. Its next victim to steal their wallet or something. I don't know what he would do. You know, my thing about ghosts and spirits is that, you know, when I think about this, it does lead me to dismiss the whole idea, because I don't know really what it is. Really, you know, a lot of people don't. Like, what are they? Are they just like leftover energy? Are they just leftover imprints of, you know, something? You know, like what is a ghost? You know.
Yeah, I don't know the answers to that either. I think possibly there isn't any one answer. You know, maybe it's I've talked about sort of like the atmosphere absorbed into buildings. Is it energy given off? As you mentioned, energy. Is it energy? And it must be energy of some kind, I would imagine, because that makes sense. But how it all works, I do not know. All I know is what I've experienced.
Now, you know, some people say that. Some people say that it's energy and it's like someone left behind because they're stuck in some sort of emotion or whatever. It's like, okay. If I entertain that thought, that logic, go, okay, then maybe ghosts exist. But it's like, if that's the case, then surely maybe it's beyond the capability of a spirit or ghost or whatever. But being that there's human beings that like to just play pranks and mess with people all the time, all for fun, and like you see that all the time on videos, whatever, like messing with people just for the fun of it, then we should be seeing a lot more of like poltergeist activity happening, like just to mess with people. And I'm surprised that we haven't seen that.
Yeah, well, maybe again it's because you only see what you are meant to see.
Oh,
and
I hear that too. I gotta say, Catherine, if I die and I'm given the choice to come back as a spirit, I'm be like, hey, I'll come back as a spirit. I'm gonna be haunting people. I'll be playing pranks. I'll be messing with people. And raiding their fridge at night. Raiding their fridge at night. You know, maybe get into the bed with them. You know, be like, oh, what's going on? It's like, hey, there's that MrDeadman ghost going in there. You know, it's like that's what I would be doing. I'll be just being a prankster. You know, just messing around. But yeah. I'm surprised we don't have more of that. It's probably not like the way I described. You probably don't get to choose. It's probably something that just happens. I don't know.
All will be revealed in the fullness of time, will it not? None of us get out alive.
Yeah. Now, being that it's Horror Talk Radio, and we talked about your paranormal experiences. Well, before we shift gears to a favorite horror movie, is there another paranormal experience that like really comes to mind as like, hey, you know, this is, I cannot explain this any other way, but something supernatural?
Anything that's happened to me, you mean? I think I've covered most of what has really happened to me. Trying to think of anything else just at the moment. I mean, I mentioned about the cat, but I mean, so that's something that you had to be there to see. No, I think we've pretty much covered the ones that have actually happened to me. I mean, I borrow from other people, obviously.
Right.
When I was in hospital at the Women's, the nurses and the staff generally, the health professionals generally, that we get talking, because I was in for 4 weeks in that particular hospital. And you get talking to people, and when they found out what I did, there's I'd say to them quite logically, logical thing from this, has anything weird happened here at the women's? And almost all of them would have some that had been there for any length of time. The student nurses not, but the ones who've been there for some time would have some story to tell, and some of them were the same story, which is, again, I bring this out in the book. And there was one particular one about a ghost or a presence or whatever you want to call it that had been reported on more than one occasion, the same thing, on the maternity ward there, which is a combined maternity and gynae unit there. And it would be somebody who was dressed as a nurse, or a sister, we're not sure. Older uniform, not the scrubs that they tend to wear now, and would be seen around and apparently comforting a woman who was having problems. Maybe she'd had a stillbirth, or something was going wrong with this particular mother, and the patient herself wouldn't be aware of it because they'd be asleep or be out of it for one way or another, unconscious. But somebody else would report seeing just this shadowy figure bending over her as if to comfort her. And then that would be the end of that episode. But this happened on a number of occasions. And there were a few stories of that kind of ilk going around that particular hospital. And I don't think that's at all unusual, because if you read, I was doing some research into hospital phenomena, ghostly phenomena and so on recently. And you kind of, a hospital is a traumatic place.
Yeah.
Any hospital, whatever its discipline or however general it is, there's trauma. It's life and death every single day. Obviously particularly now, but life and death every single day, at all ends of the spectrum, from 0 to 100 and whatever. So there's something, again, we come back to the imprinting in the building. There's something there. Why this nurse should be haunting in that particular way, I don't know. But that's a benevolent spirit again, isn't it? How does that work? I don't know. But so many people reported that independently, who didn't know each other, had no prior knowledge. If you try and search for that ghosts of the Liverpool Women's Hospital online, I think you'll spend a long time trying to find them, because I can't find them. You go into the hospital and they'll tell you. Right. Staff will tell you.
Yeah, it's the hospital, I think, that would be the most haunted places. If there's going to be one, it would be that, because that's where the pain and suffering and life and death, that's where it occurs. Cemeteries, people are already dead. By the time they're buried, if there is a spirit or soul, it probably left their body a long time ago, being being embalmed and all that. I say that because there's people who live near cemeteries. They're like, I never experienced anything. Well, yeah, because those are just husks at that point. By the time they're buried, they have so many chemicals pumped in them that it's just, But the hospital, man. Well, let's shift gears here just a little bit. Do you have a favorite horror movie? I think we talked about it before on the leading up to this. But yeah, what's your favorite horror movie?
I've got to go back to Night of the Demon. I can't. It was released in the States under a different name. Night of the. I think it was Curse of the Demon. Curse of the Demon, was it? Right, yeah, that sounds familiar. It's a film made in the 50s anyway. And it's notable for the fact that if you're watching it now, it's in black and white, and the demon is a sort of almost like a hairy monster creature who pursues the person who is about to lose their life, and sort of thumping thump, 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 and a puff of smoke that gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And the story is based on Casting the Runes, which is a short story by M.R. James. And it's a story about this piece of paper with runes on it. And if it's passed to you, then you have something like 3 days to live. I can't remember the exact length of time to live, but it's very short. Unless you get rid of it. If you can pass it on to somebody else, then you're okay. and it's just a story of this happening, and how this evil and this menace is getting closer and closer. And will this guy be able to find these runes and pass them on? You've got to find them first. You know they're there, but where are they? Where are they? It's just this piece of paper. And if this piece of paper is alive itself, and if it can burn, then that's no good. You're still cursed. You're still going to end up being killed by this demon. So
if you had the runes on the piece of paper and that's what haunts you, and the piece of paper was destroyed, then are you forever haunted, or do you just write a new rune?
No, you've had it, mate. I mean, you know, your number's up because there's a date that you have there's a finite amount of time from it being delivered to you meeting your fate, and within that finite amount of time you've got to either pass that on or else you're going to die. And those are two alternatives. And it's the paper itself, it behaves like it's alive, and it doesn't it wants to stay attached to the person to whom it's been delivered, or it wants to burn, and if it burns, it still belongs to the person to whom it's been delivered, so their fate is sealed.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I've not seen this movie, but I'm looking at it here. It looks pretty cool, especially 1950, 1957. Like, of course, it has practical effects. You know, they're going to have practical effects. So, I love it when they have that, you know, because this movie's pretty, I think they age kind of well. I know, like, the black and white might be kind of, I don't know, some people may not like that sort of thing. They might want to see it in color or whatever, but it's like, I think the black and white gives it that eerie atmosphere anyway. You have the sort of fog and the sort of, like, you know, low lighting. But the monster itself looks like a devil. It looks
That's
crazy.
right.
Like this winged devil thing.
It's a bit wobbly. By modern standards, it's quite wobbly, but he's all the better for that. I just love it. No, it would not be the same in colour. It definitely needs black and white. I think some films need black and white. The Haunting, the original film of The Haunting of Hill House, which I still think is the best version, that's in black and white, glorious black and white, and all the better for it, in my opinion. And I mean, Hitchcock's Psycho was made in black and white. I think a lot of that was to do with he was thinking of doing it in colour, and it was something to do with the blood. He ended up, it looked terribly fake, whatever they were using. I can't remember now exactly, but anyway, he made it black and white, used HP brown sauce or whatever it was, and it made for a highly atmospheric film.
Now, some people say, and James mentioned this in the chat, and that's why I like the chat here on Horror Talk Radio, because they may know this and I don't, because I wasn't aware of this movie with this story here. But apparently there's some people who said that there's a controversy about showing the demon, that some critics were said that the demon's best not to be shown, and let it just be like this entity, this force. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think there's a good argument for that. Because he does look a bit wobbly now, especially now. But I suppose you could recut it without him. Without him, you have got, if you were to take him out, the monster out, you would have the really scary effects, because the really scary effects are the smoke and also these thumping footprints, which are smoking.
Yeah. They could have had that scene, but just not see it.
And leave it to the viewer's imagination as to what the creature actually looks like, if indeed it's corporeal at all.
Or then it would be also, some people would be like treating it like they treated Bird Box, like, what the hell, man? You don't see it. What the hell? Like, what are they afraid of? But it's like, well, maybe you don't need to see it. Maybe you can't see it. Maybe it's something they see, you know?
I think there's good.
I'm torn on that too, though I haven't seen it. Right, I need to see that scene in particular, but because maybe it does look kind of wobbly and messed up. But I do like practical effects when I do get to see them at times. But it's stop motion. I'm assuming, and the stop motion kind of makes it like, what does the animation look kind of choppy? Let me see if I can see a clip of it right here. Live.
He does move. Yeah.
Let me see.
And to be honest, I say he would have been probably more scary to audiences in the 50s because they wouldn't have seen as many, and they certainly wouldn't have seen the sort of films we see now.
Okay.
Nothing like.
All right, I'm playing part of it here. Let me put it on the screen too. I know it's probably copyright and all that stuff, but let me put it on the screen. For those that are watching right now, okay, let me go put this here. Okay, this is part of it here. There's the smoke. Oh, and you see the demon. And from the distance, the demon looks kind of cool so far.
He gets closer.
Oh.
That
doesn't look bad.
Can you imagine it without him in it?
I could see a little bit what they're talking about, because he is literally wobbly. His legs don't even look like they're actually moving. Oh, there we go. Take a step. He's like he's flying, like he's floating.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, you got some cool sparks. All right, fast forward a little bit. All right. That close-up shot didn't look bad. Now he's stepping over him. All right. I mean, okay, so I could probably say I like part of it. I would probably, if I could change it, I would try to do the best of both worlds. Have it where he's seen, maybe not so much animated towards him, because that was the sort of wobbly part, right? Be like, okay, you kind of see it there. You kind of see what he's reacting to a little bit. In the distance, it did look kind of cool. Like, oh man, okay, that's a devil. He's coming to get you. Like, he has your number, right? Your time is up. And then the close-ups weren't so bad, So it's, yeah, I say a little bit of both. Oh,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's cool. Cool. That's what one thing I like doing the show. I mean, there's a lot of horror movies out there, and I'm constantly making a list of things I need to see. So okay, and this is one of them that I would definitely have to watch again. Let's see.
It's only quite short. I think it's about 80 minutes, something like that, 70, 80 minutes, something like that. But it's a film I can watch again and again, even now. It's just, I just think it's great. I love these old black and white ones.
And when you first mentioned it, I thought, Night of the Demons? You mean like the one, because, I like the movie too. It's like, oh, no, Night of the Demon. Oh, okay. Oh, you're right. You're right. All right. Night of the Demon. Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's a cool movie. I got to check it out. I would definitely do that. All right. Well, I was going to do a caption contest. I could do that here. I do that now. By the way, while I set this up, and Catherine, feel free to plug In the Darkness. Feel free to plug that book real fast where people can get it. Obviously, probably Amazon, and then plug some other books as well. I'm going to set this up real fast.
Okay. All right. Well, this is, I don't know if you can see this. All right. This is In Darkness, Shadows Breathe. And when we're sort of finished here in a few minutes, I'll pop a little link up to my Flame Tree Press page. If I try and do it now, I'll probably end up cutting as I'm not the most technical person in the world, as I think would be pretty obvious. But In Darkness, Shadows Breathe is published by Flame Tree Press. You also have published some other books of mine, The Garden of Bewitchment, which is about Victorian toy garden.
Victorian toy garden.
Oh yes, a toy garden, but it's one that you build yourself.
Oh.
The only thing is that when you build it, you become part of it, and you really don't want to. But that one is also
does it require blood or something? Like you have to put your blood into the garden? Wait.
Oh no! Oh no! It will just take you over. And it's so anyway, that's a Garden of Bewitchment, or that's part of the Garden of Bewitchment. There's a lot more to it than that. It's actually set in Victorian times, and it's set in the wilds of West Yorkshire, in Bronte country, Emily, Bronte country. So if you think sort of Wuthering Heights type atmosphere, but without Heathcliff and without Kathy doing a Kate Bush bit flying.
Okay. All right.
But so that's it's about a very, very creepy toy garden that you really, really don't want to build yourself. And the other one that Flame Tree published of mine is The Haunting of Henderson Close. That's set in Edinburgh, underground, and it's a tourist attraction based on a real one called the Real Mary King's Close. And there's some ghostly goings on underground there that affect a tour operator and her colleagues. And the old devil is released there. And there's all sorts of nasty mayhem as a result of that too. So there's a lot of ghostly stuff in that. And hauntings. There's a lot of the Edinburgh atmosphere and graveyards and all sorts of stuff going on there too. So all of those are out from Flame Tree. And if you like ghostly, scary stories, please give them a try.
Okay. Now this is the Caption Contest part. Now this picture was posted on the Hard Talk Radio Facebook page. It was shared in a couple groups. All right, so I'll go ahead and so obviously here I'm going to read a couple comments. We're going to read the comments. The funniest one wins, and the judge of that would be between me and the guest, Catherine. You can judge here. So straight up from the top here, reading the ones on the Facebook page first from JT Lozano. You could this image I think I shared it with you, Catherine. It's the one with the fish market, the fish with the zombie hand on it.
Yes, yeah. There's a whole new meaning to fish fingers. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, I just.
Yeah. So JT Lozano says you could tell they're wild because they managed to get the fisherman's hand. All right. Nancy Dickinson said caught with hand-tied flies. Oh, okay. JT Lozano says again, I mean, I didn't say you can only comment once. It's fine. The freshest fish are always at the bottom. Oh, look at that. Dawn Ellis, she says sleeping with the fishes. All right. Travis Picard says something looks a little fishy. Well, that's it. Nick Lior, I'm not sure if I said it right. Things first day at the meat market. Okay. All right. Jose Panbecci. All right. I'm horrible with names. Says trust the in-mouth fisherman. The Lovecraft reference. All right. All right. Now those. There's two other shares. Let's see. There's one in the Horror Writers Net. There's two comments on it where, see, from Milo McLaughlin. Yes. Do you catch the fish in the middle by noodling or with a rod and reel? Okay. Mark McKee said, I'll take 5 of what's in the middle front. You know, trying to make it escape. See, I have a fetish for hands and okay. The hand collector. Okay. In the Dead Man's Tome fan club group, which people should join, it's pretty cool. Stanley Webb says hand caught. All right. Villamy Miss said hand shot prices. Oh, look at that. Teresa Jacobs said hands free. Stephen Kelly said it's not that cold out here. Belinda Brady said catch of the day. Richard Rumble. Fingering the fish may be hazardous to your health. Okay.
I like that one.
Damien says fish fingers. All right. But Damien also had multiple ones. Fish fingers, finger looking good. Something fishy here. Okay. That was a bunch I listed. I don't know, Catherine, which one still stinks in your mind? Which one still sticks in your mind? We'll go with that.
I think there's some absolutely brilliant ones there. I really do. I've got to say, maybe it's just my warped sense of humor, but fingering the fish may be hazardous to your health. I think that one. I love that one. I think there's some real great imagination, but that that's up my alley.
Yeah, definitely don't go around fingering fish, guys. That's not a good idea. All right. All right. So
yes, it works on a lot of levels, doesn't it? That one.
yeah. So Richard Rumpel gets a free copy of Hollywood Holocaust paperback. All right.
Fabulous! Congratulations.
So I'll ship it out to him. So amazing.
Fabulous.
All right, so Catherine, it's been great having you on Horror Talk Radio. It's not every time I have a morning show. I'm surprised I actually woke up and functioning enough to even ask you questions.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate not having to get up at me not trying to produce a coherent sentence at 3:30 in the morning, which is what would have happened had you done it the other way. So I really appreciate that, and I appreciate being here, and I thank you very much indeed.
It's no problem. And it's better for the guest to be coherent than the host. The host, all he has to do is ask a couple questions. Just let the guest talk. It's like, But no, I enjoy this. This was a lot of fun, and I believe I'm doing this again next week because I have another. A ghost guy, a ghost hunter, but he lives in the UK. So I was like, all right, I'll just do another morning Saturday stream then as well. All right, cool.
All right.
Well, Catherine, it's great talking with you guys, ladies who made it this far. Press the like button, share, and subscribe. If you're listening to this in the podcast feed, on iTunes or whatever, definitely leave a comment. Rate it. That helps out a lot. All right, y'all take it easy.
Thank you very much.